Ian Rippin, welcome to Conscious. Congratulations for being a guest that we can actually get online because we've had a few problems this morning. But thank you very much for joining us. Now, you are from
No problem.
MCS, and I think it's far better for you to introduce what MCS does than it is for me to.
Yeah, hi, Philippa. Great to take part. Yeah, MCS is the quality assurance department of the sector that installs domestic small-scale renewables like solar panels and heat pumps on people's homes. So we're a standards organisation, a quality organisation that makes sure that consumers get what they're paying for in terms of their renewable energy for their homes.
Now, as soon as you say standards organisation, part
Yes.
of my brain, I can't help it. Part of my brain, with the best will in the world, goes, "Order." I know. Oh no, I've gone. Tell
Yeah.
me what is. Tell me what is sexy about what you do.
Oh, great question. Yeah, and I know I get it's not sort of something I admit to down the pub, that I'm involved in it. Yeah, I mean, what is sexy about it is that there's a revolution going on in the UK in terms of domestic deployment of this technology. People want to do their bit for the planet. And this is one way they can do that. So, particularly solar panels, which are the deployment of solar panels is booming. People want that for their homes because it allows them to offset the costs, rising costs of energy bills, but also allows them to do their bit for the planet. So we're here to make sure that that's a great experience for them and that they're protected if something were to go wrong.
Tell me what the benefits really are. I mean, we all know, oh yeah, slap some solar panels on that. That's going to be doing some good. And then maybe some people start to look into it and go, that's a bit expensive. Is it actually worth it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to weigh up for your particular property. It's different by each home, and solar panels, the cost of which has come down dramatically in the last 10 years by over 60%. So the sort of return on that investment, if you like, is not only your green credentials as an individual, but you can reduce your electricity bill quite considerably. It depends how many panels you have, but if you then couple that with a battery, a domestic battery, an energy storage system as well, then you can make more use of the energy that you're capturing during the day when you're at home at night when the sun isn't shining. So yeah, the first benefit is reducing your electricity bill and going green. Secondly,
And possibly even give it back to the grid if you're
oh,
if
oh
you're
yeah, I mean,
generating more.
this is a significant, this is going to be really significant in the future, and we're only just at the beginning of a journey here. So yeah, the energy that you don't use yourself, passing that back to the grid, you get paid for that. You get what is called an export tariff. Some of those tariffs are a bit small at the moment. It's a bit like the difference between a savings account and your bank loan. You actually don't get as much in return as you need to pay to buy electricity off the grid. But you transporting the energy you don't use onto the grid is helping the grid be more resilient, and you get paid for that. And that's going to be a really significant thing going forward in terms of grid resilience, and our homes as power stations. You're creating power yourself, that normally you would draw down from a big energy provider.
Which is, we all love that feeling of being self-sufficient, particularly when it comes to those types of things like energy and that we're
Yeah.
not normally self-sufficient in. So for the average house at the moment,
Hmm.
have you got, I mean, I'm asking you for figures off the top of your head. What would be
Yeah,
the
sure.
outgoing and how long would that take to get to earn that back, if you like, to recompense yourself?
Yeah, I guess there's no such thing as the average solar panel installation, but you're talking about between £4,000 and £8,000, depending on how big, how many solar panels you've got. So that's your initial outlay. If you want to add a battery, you can double that. So making a return, the average the average household is looking at 5 to 10 years before you make that back in energy bill savings. But solar panels have a very long life and they add value. We know they add value to people's homes. We work with the Trade Association Solar Energy UK, who looked at the value of people's homes when they've got solar on them. I think this is going to be an increasing demand, certainly of new homes as well, that have integrated solar panels, that essentially you don't have tiles on your roof anymore. You have integrated solar panels, so the whole roof becomes a solar panel. So I think the next generation of new homes and our demands from those new homes are that they are grid resilient, that they are green, and you get a bit of a return. Your energy bill is in reverse. You start to make money from your home as a power station.
I hear you. That's what we all want to hear. And our homes
It is.
obviously are vital to us, and our well-being, our sense of who we are in the world, our sense of all sorts of things come from how we perceive our home. And we're known as a nation of home lovers, and
And
English
homeowners,
persons.
yeah.
Home,
Yeah.
is its castle. But so, from our own sense and in our own pockets, of course, it's important. How much impact nationally, though, if we're all looking at these technologies, and we'll go into depth about some more of them later, but how much impact really nationally do we have as a collective of homeowners? Where, if you're a businessman who is running, huge factories, say, or a businesswoman, obviously, you, one decision can make a massive impact. Collectively,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
I mean, the collective power of this is really awesome, actually. So when you think about the solar panels that have been installed in the time MCS has existed, which is the last 15 years, it equates to the size of a nuclear power station like Hinkley C. So the energy, the dispersed energy that is being generated from solar panels on people's roofs is the same now as a nuclear power station. Sort of get your head around that actually
I
our
love
homes are
that.
power stations. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Um, then the next phase is to look at decarbonising not only electricity but also your heating and hot water, and that's a major contributor to your carbon footprint. People don't realize or unnecessarily think about that. We think about the food we eat, the flights we take, how we travel to work, the cars we own. But actually, over 20% of our carbon footprint is from our heating and hot water. So the next step is maybe to think about having a heat pump in your home as well.
So I've been down this road a little bit. Now,
Okay,
obviously,
cool.
ground source heat pump is now starting to become part of the general vernacular. People know vaguely, if they don't know in specific details, what a ground source heat pump
Yeah,
does. It's a greener version, a cheaper version of a boiler. Tell
exactly.
me, tell us, for those who don't know exactly, and because I can always do with some revision on this one, exactly how it works. I mean, I think I'm pretty clear on the technology, but tell us how it actually works in basic terms.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've lived with heat pumps for years. Actually, we've just not realised it. I mean, heat pumps are in things like fridges and in our aircon in our car. So it is a proven technology that we're all using, but we're using it for cooling. So if you reverse that process and you can use it for heating, space heating, the air in your home or your hot water. So essentially, what a heat pump does, it's an electrical device, and it takes 1 unit of electricity, and then the magic in the heat pump turns that 1 unit of electricity into 3, 4, 5 units of energy that can power your home. And it does
How?
that
No,
using
how?
how does it
How?
how does it work? Yeah, so
Doesn't
what
make
it's
sense.
using, yeah, it uses a compressor and a refrigerant. So essentially it sucks in the ambient, the in the air and in the ground there is heat. Now it might not feel like it on a cold winter's day, but there is heat in the air, and it draws that in and it compresses it, so that it heats a refrigerant that exists. The refrigerant reaches boiling point, at a very low temperature, and that drives the heating system that is a heat pump. And you can have ones that take it from the air, which is the most common. So they take the heat in the air and turn that into usable heat in your home, or it takes it from the ground, which is the ground source heat pump, um, and it draws in the heat that the sun has put into the ground. It takes that out and compresses it and makes it usable for your home. So that's the way it works. That's not the scientific answer, but basically that is how it does it.
Yeah, but for those of us who aren't particularly scientists and don't need to be, just having a basic understanding is what's really helpful here. So you do
Definitely.
need to use some energy. It's not like solar where the energy is just arriving out of nowhere. You need to use some energy to get more energy. That's the
Ex-
basics of
exactly. It's the most efficient heating system you will ever buy. So if you imagine if you're heating your home, most people are with gas. A gas boiler is it's not as efficient. It's actually quite inefficient when you compare it to a heat pump. So it uses 1 unit of gas and generates under that less than 1 unit of energy to heat your home. Whereas a heat pump takes the 1 unit of electricity and turns that into two, more than two, four, five, six, depending on the type of heat pump you've had installed. So yeah, that's why they are relatively cheaper to run. Um, as well as as we decarbonise the UK's grid, and there's a success story there. We are slowly decarbonising our grid. The electricity that comes through the pipe into your house is greener than it's ever been. So why not use it, maximise it for the heating for your home?
I love hearing that as well. That's nice to hear that we are
Yes, it's good,
progressing
isn't it?
in that way. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
obviously, with a new build, that's great. We'll sling
yes,
some solar panels on the roof instead of roof tiles, and we'll sling some ground source heat pumps around the place. And so we've got all of the new houses in that little new build
yeah.
area have got ground source heat pumps. All fine.
All
In an
future
old
proof.
house,
Yeah,
and I live in an old house. We've got so much old housing stock here in the UK. When you're refitting a system, again, we're going to come back to whether people can afford to do that or not.
yeah.
Retrofitting is the term I was looking
Retrofitting
for,
is
wasn't it? Retrofitting, which is not
retro.
old handbags and not as exciting as digging out some old
Sadly not, no.
accessories and going, I used to wear this 20 years ago and it's come back into fashion. Not
Yeah,
like that
it's
kind of
not
thing.
that. No. Yeah, so retrofitting a new heating system. I mean, I would say that any heating system you need to consider the thermal properties of your home. So what I'm talking about, if you've got a leaky home in terms of the heat, it leaks from the doors, the windows, and the floor, and the roof. Then any heating system is going to be inefficient. You're going to need more energy to heat that leaky space. So we always say that it's thermal first, it's fabric first. So look at the insulation you've got in your home, and you hear about this in the news, don't you? People talk about insulation because actually you're using less energy, and the best way to decarbonize is use less of the energy that you need. Um, so on the assumption you've done that, then retrofitting a heat pumps work best when they've got larger emitters, so radiators, larger spaces, because it's a lower temperature heating. Still makes your home nice, warm, and cozy, but it needs a bigger space. And that's why heat pumps work really well with underfloor heating, because underfloor heating, of course, is a bigger space. You can have it in your kitchen, that lovely feeling when you come down in the morning, you've got that warmth on your feet. That's the energy from a heat pump going through pipework onto your floor, and that can heat the room. So that's the most efficient way to do it. But if you're retrofitting into a home, yeah, you need to consider the pipework and your radiators and the thermal properties of your home. Which is why I think heat pumps get a bit of a bad rap, because they think, well, actually, a heat pump on its own is not that expensive. It's more expensive than a gas boiler, but it's all the other things that you might have to do to make your home heat pump ready.
So I think that's the interesting thing about ground source heat pumps, that we kind of look at the ground source heat pump and go, oh, well, I won't buy a new boiler, I'll buy a new ground source heat pump, and don't think about replacing the whole system because, as you've just said, underfloor heating works better than radiators in most instances. So
Yeah,
it is a whole hoo-ha, isn't it? That's a technical term.
it's the technical term, and it can be quite disruptive and therefore can be quite expensive as well, which is why we advocate for these devices to be at the beginning of a home's life in new build. But it certainly is possible, and I think probably in our lives buy 2 or 3 heating systems probably when we buy a new home, or when a heating system falls over. I think in the UK we've been seduced by gas boilers actually, and they're operating usually very inefficiently at higher temperatures than they need to. So we need to get the low temperature heating bug. We need to catch that, um, and then think about when we're doing a home renovation or when we're replacing our heating system that we need to go for the greener option. So that's when heat pumps
Yeah.
have a big role. Um,
And I was looking because I've got an oil fired boiler, and I really wanted to replace that because I live on a river with a water source
yes,
heat pump, and the technology is available. It's absolutely the right
yes,
situation where I could use that technology. I don't have 35 grand knocking around. And in fact, the irony of this whole situation is, isn't it? One of the reasons that I want to replace is because I want to reduce the costs. Not because I want to spend 35 grand, which frankly, at my age, am I really going to see 35 grand back in heating bills?
yeah,
It's a,
that's why at the moment with prices where they are, that's why government incentives are critical, and what we're seeing is a slow uptake of a scheme that government runs at the moment called the boiler upgrade scheme. A boiler upgrade scheme offers you a grant of £5,000 for an air source heat pump or £6,000 for a ground source heat pump. So that can go some way to contributing to the cost. But yeah, larger systems are not cheap. Let's be honest. But we're in the same way we saw solar panels, cost of solar panels reduced dramatically um, over the last 10 years. I predict we'll see the same with heating systems. And now you're seeing providers offering a complete system for £5,000 once or less once you've taken into account your boiler upgrade scheme grant. So it starts to be more attainable. But I take your point. If you've got a larger home and you need to do lots of work to make your home heat pump ready, then the costs are going to be higher.
mm. So it's worth keeping an eye on it, though, for those of us who haven't got a load amount of capital just to outlay and we're not
Yes.
doing a renovation. And I've got underfloor heating, so it wouldn't even be that massively
Oh,
disruptive for me. So, but
yeah.
keep an eye on it would be your advice there. The other thing
Yeah,
is,
definitely. Mm.
when I've talked to experts in the field about water source heat pumps, they have all said it's all very well the government offering this money, but trying to get hold of it is another issue. Are you finding that?
We're not really. We're seeing contractors installers that is, who have perhaps been burnt in the past by previous government schemes that have um, sort of come today, gone tomorrow type schemes, and they're business people. They need the reassurance that the grant scheme is going to be there for some time. So we're really pleased to see that the boiler upgrade scheme has been extended by 2 years. I think was a 3 year scheme. It's now five-year scheme. So that helps. But there are some contractors who don't want to offer that scheme. Actually, if you are wanting to consider a heat pump for your home, the best place to start is to have a look at the list on the MCS website. You can look for contractors, and it tells you which ones are offering the boiler upgrade scheme. So,
Right.
against the name of the contractor, there's a flag that says their boiler upgrade scheme participants, BUS. they're on the bus. So that's the where I would start, and then have a look at what options. Ask a contractor to come and see what options could work for your home.
And then contractors. Ah, don't we
Yes.
just love them? That in itself is a tricky one, as we all know, I think, in hindsight now, what happened when, solar PV first appeared. Suddenly, so did a whole load of people claiming that they
Yeah.
were experts in the field and could install your solar for you.
Yes.
How do we know? How do we know? Is there really a green workforce, the green workforce we dream of, that are dedicated to the cause, that really understand the technology inside out, that care about doing a good job? We know that the world of tradespeople varies hugely, and it's scary to trust people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I would say you must choose an MCS certified contractor and installer. They go through rigorous quality checks to make sure they're delivering quality outcomes for customers, and we do take action against those installers that don't behave, deliver the wrong systems and install them incorrectly, um, and we hold them to account. But with any market, if there's a government incentive, there's government money on offer, it draws people to it, maybe not the right people to it. So the process they have to go through to be MCS certified is rigorous, and as I say, we do police the sector, so that customers can have confidence that they're buying from a reputable installer.
So at the very beginning of this interview, I asked you what's sexy about what you do, and there it is, right there, isn't it? I mean, we're in the wild west that is potentially this world. You're riding out and saving us from the cowboys. That's
Never
how I
seen
see it.
myself as a sheriff,
There
but
you go.
yeah, and there's always more we can do. With all humility, the MCS, the scheme, is going through quite a lot of change over the coming year, to make it even more effective, but importantly to make it more accessible as well. So for conscientious contractor who wants to get into this sector, we're making it easier to understand in terms of the obligations that we place on them to treat customers fairly, deliver great designed and installed systems. So yeah, the future is bright, as especially as we move from an early adopter market to the early majority, and that's the
Nice.
phase we're now in.
And developers, how on board are they? Or is it just a bit of a pain for them? I mean, I know there are so many, it's very difficult to generalize. Not all developers are just money grabbers,
But
but they
no,
do want to
no,
make a profit.
of course. Yeah, there are some really great signs that the attitudes are changing. We're seeing some of the national house builders fitting heat pumps as standard in their detached, semi-detached homes, and they come with underfloor heating. So they're green homes from the very beginning. We're also seeing lots of deployment of solar. I think in the past we've had a bit of tokenism, really. People put one or two solar panels on a roof that just about will drive your kettle and nothing more. We're now seeing, and certainly as the government rolls out the Future Homes Standard, which we expect to be consulted on later this year, that will mandate, we hope, for more solar. As I said earlier, we want to see roofs that are entirely covered with solar panels, if appropriate. If there's not shading or they're facing in the wrong direction, we should be maximizing the space that's available to us on our roofs to generate renewable energy.
So for now, are developers mandated? Do they have to do it, or are they just doing it because they're smart? They can see that there is an improvement in the value of the home, but they don't have to.
Depends, Philippa. It depends on local planning. So if part of the planning that was awarded to a development requires them to install solar panels, they will do that. And unfortunately, there are is a temptation then to satisfy that requirement with just a token number of solar panels. But increasingly, developers are responding to the market, and they need to, because homeowners want future-proof homes. They want to make sure that those homes are renewable energy driven, and will demand that. I think when my children look to buy homes and their children buy homes, they will be astounded that we were still building homes in 2023 that are on the gas grid, that are still using fossil fuels. I think this will be that'll be the change in attitude. We're starting now to see that come through, and the developers that are ahead of the game, they're going to win, and we're
Yeah.
seeing quite a few of them now getting on board.
So it's a juggling act with this cost of living crisis. I mean, in one way, it's incentivizing us to find other solutions to
Yes.
our energy sources, particularly. In another way, it's preventing us, because we're all now even more strapped for cash than we were, from finding those other solutions. So, what's it panning out like? What does it look like in real terms?
Yeah, we're seeing a real step change in people wanting solar panels, and that's driven by the economic argument. The price of electricity has gone up, and it's linked to gas in the UK currently. So ironically, higher electricity prices make heat pumps more expensive to run. So what we would hope for going forward is a decoupling of the price that we pay for our electricity from gas, because that's the way our market works today. So we're not really benefiting from cheaper, greener electricity generation, because the price of it is fixed by the price of gas and gas generation of electricity. So if you could decouple those things, the price of our electricity should come down, make heat pumps even more affordable to run. But ironically, that's the reason why many people are having solar panels is because their electricity is expensive.
Yeah.
So we need to reach this sort of balancing point. That's what we're hoping for in the market.
And what about you? What's your why? Why this has got to be hard going. Sometimes must feel like an
Oh,
uphill
it is.
slog.
It is.
Tell me about it. Come on, tell us about
Yeah,
it.
the sheriff
What's it
is
like
not
doing
popular.
your job? Yeah, exactly. And why do you keep going?
Well, really good question, which I wasn't expecting. Um, yeah, um, yeah. I mean, I think it, it is a job where you face quite a lot of criticism, because it's fascinating actually how many installers I speak to, and it's never them. They're the good installers, and when we come to remove people off the scheme, there's every reason why not. We shouldn't be doing that, but it's the way we do it. I'm passionate about the role that standards can play in any industry. I've learned everything I know about renewable energy in this job. Um,
Passionate about standards.
I know, what an exciting person to I'm not coming to dinner. I know that's the worst thing I could have said.
No, you're the cowboy. You're out there against the cowboys. Come on,
Yeah, yeah.
passionate about
Uh,
standards. Own it.
I do own it. You're right, Philippa. And it's going to sound odd to say it, but actually, there's some really exciting developments in the technology that, to protect consumers, we need standards that, relate to the performance. So, for example, energy storage batteries in our homes, you would expect there to be a standard for that. Um, Anything you put in your homes that's about electricity and power and energy, you would hope, wouldn't you, that it was covered by a standard, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's
but
paving
it's
the
the
way then for that to become part of our everyday life as humans.
Absolutely, and MCS has that role. We should be giving people reassurance. Our mission is to give people confidence in small scale renewable energy. That's at the heart of what we do. Standards are just part of that. But yeah, people are confident that this is the way the market's going, and they want to make that investment, make the leap. Then we've done our job.
Yeah. And it's empowering us. The technology is empowering us to make choices that have quite a big impact at the end of the
I
day.
couldn't agree more. And if you feel like you're in control of the energy in your home, your home is precious to you, isn't it? Um, that is really empowering, and you know that you're doing your bit then uh, in the fight against climate change.
And so you've mentioned several times through this interview, because out there in the Wild West,
Yeah.
we need our protection from the cowboys. What's the website? Remind us again of MCS.
So you can find us at MCS certified. So that's all one word, mcscertified.com. That's the place to go. There's a section for consumers, there's a section for contractors. And then if you're a real nerd, you can have a look at the standards as well. They're on the website too.
We're all a bit nerdy, really, though, aren't we?
Well, yes, I have to admit, sometimes I
Yeah.
do read a standard or two.
Yeah, I think we've got the gist of that by now.
Yeah,
Ian, thank you so much for joining us from up
you're
north.
welcome.
You're right on the Mersey there, aren't you?
Right on the Mersey, yeah, in the
Looks like a
northwest. That's me.
glorious day for producing energy with solar power panels.
Every day's a good day for solar.
Really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
No problem. Great to talk to you, Philippa.